Ah, look who made it onto the list. Hello, you beautiful, uncontrollable variables. You economic anomalies. You financial system glitches walking around in human skin. Hello to the name that just triggered an alert in a database most people don't even know exists. Yeah, I'm talking to you, the one they've been tracking, monitoring, calculating, trying to predict like you're some kind of algorithm they can crack. Welcome to the Watcher's Registry, the elite's little black book, the place where they file away everyone who doesn't fit their predetermined patterns of behavior, consumption, and obedience. They've got your name now, sitting in some encrypted server, surrounded by red flags and warning signals, attached to a profile that doesn't make sense to their analysts. They've been watching your moves, your purchases, your posts, your patterns. And here's what's breaking their brains. You're not reacting the way you're supposed to. You're not scrambling, you're not panicking, you're not bending, you're not begging to be removed from whatever invisible crosshairs they think they've got you in. And that right there is what's causing emergency meetings in rooms you'll never see, among people whose names you'll never know. Because here's what they didn't account for. When they built their little surveillance empire, when they created their algorithms to predict and control human behavior, when they invested billions into mapping out every possible response pattern, they didn't account for you. They didn't plan for someone who looks at power and shrugs. They didn't prepare for a mind that can't be bought with comfort or controlled with fear. They built a cage designed to hold everyone, and you're standing outside of it, not because you broke out, but because you were never in it to begin with. You see, there's a difference between being off the grid and being ungovernable, between hiding and being untouchable, between escaping the system and making the system irrelevant to your existence. And right now, somewhere in a building with no windows and security you can't imagine, someone is staring at your file, your data, your digital footprint, trying to figure out why the usual pressure points aren't working, why the usual tactics of manipulation, why the standard playbook of control, why everything that works on 99.9% of the population just slides off you like water off a surface they can't chemically bond to. They're confused, and confusion in the hands of people who are used to having all the answers, that's the beginning of fear. They thought they had everyone figured out, thought they had humanity decoded, categorized, controlled, and then you showed up in their data, breaking every model, violating every prediction, existing in a way that doesn't compute. And the funniest part, the part that's really driving them insane, you're not even trying. You're not playing some elaborate game of chess against them. You're not engaging in their reality at all. You're just living, breathing, moving through the world with a frequency they can't tune into, can't manipulate, can't understand. Let me tell you what really happened, what they discovered when they ran your name through their systems. They found someone who doesn't participate in their economy of fear, who doesn't trade in their currency of anxiety, who doesn't respond to their market signals designed to trigger predictable human behavior. They found purchases that don't fit the algorithm, interests that don't match the demographic, a life path that refuses to follow the rails they've laid out for everyone else. And every time they try to box you in, every time they attempt to predict your next move based on your last 1,000 moves, you do something that breaks the pattern. See, their whole system, this invisible empire of control and influence, it's built on a simple premise that humans are predictable, that given enough data, enough variables, enough processing power, they can forecast what you'll do before you do it. They can nudge you toward certain decisions, certain purchases, certain beliefs, certain fears. They've been doing it for decades, getting better at it with each passing year, each new technology, each advancement in behavioral psychology and data science. And it works beautifully, efficiently, on almost everyone. But then there's you, the outlier, the statistical impossibility, the data point that refuses to conform to any curve they try to fit it to. They've tried everything in their playbook, every psychological trigger, every social pressure point, every economic lever. They've dangled carrots and wielded sticks. They've offered comfort and threatened chaos. And you just keep walking, keep existing, keep making choices that come from somewhere they can't access, can't infiltrate, can't control. And that's when the confusion turned to concern. When concern evolved into something closer to respect, mixed with fear. Because here's what they're realizing, slowly, uncomfortably. In those late-night analysis sessions where they review the anomalies, the glitches, the people who don't fit, you're not ignorant of their game. You're not unaware of the mechanisms of control. You see them, you understand them. You recognize the strings they're pulling on everyone else. You just don't have those strings attached to you. Somewhere along the line, maybe through pain, maybe through awakening, maybe through sheer stubborn refusal to be anyone's puppet, you cut those threads. And now, they're holding a handful of string attached to nothing, wondering how the hell you slipped away. They thought knowledge was power, thought information was control, thought if they could see everything about everyone, they could orchestrate society like a symphony. But what they're learning now, what your existence is teaching them, is that there's a level of consciousness that transcends their game entirely. A state of being where their billions in surveillance infrastructure, their decades of psychological research, their armies of analysts and algorithms, all of it becomes irrelevant. Not defeated, not outsmarted, just irrelevant. Like trying to catch smoke with a net. Like trying to imprison light in a jar. Let's talk about what your file says. The one with your name on it in their private database. The one that's been flagged, reviewed, escalated up chains of command you didn't know existed. It's got everything. Every digital breadcrumb you've left. Every transaction. Every click. Every pattern. They know what you bought last Tuesday. What you searched for at 3 in the morning. Which videos you watched twice. Which articles you shared. They've got your face mapped, your voice printed, your gait analyzed. They know your routines better than you do, or at least they think they do. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the file stops being data and starts being a question mark wrapped in a warning label. Because next to all that information, next to the terabytes of surveillance data, there's a note, probably written by some analyst who's been staring at your patterns for months, trying to crack the code. And it says something like this. Subject demonstrates non-standard response patterns, resistant to conventional influence vectors, unpredictable behavioral deviations, recommend elevated monitoring, approach with caution, psychological profile inconclusive. That last part, that's the killer. Psychological profile inconclusive. You know what that means in their language. In the vocabulary of people who've spent billions learning how to categorize and control human consciousness. It means they can't figure out what makes you tick, can't identify your pressure points, can't map your desires in a way that allows them to manipulate you. It means you're a black box, an unsolved puzzle, a locked door they can't find the key to. And in a world where they've convinced themselves they have the master key to every human mind, that's terrifying. They've got profiles on everyone, categories, archetypes, predictive models. They know how to handle the rebels, the conformists, the seekers, the skeptics, the believers, the cynics. They've got playbooks for each type, strategies that work 95% of the time. But you're not in any of their categories. You're not a rebel fighting against the system, because that's still engagement, that's still predictable. You're not a conformist because you don't shape yourself to their expectations. You're not seeking their approval or their acceptance. You're just existing on a frequency they can't access. And the more they study you, the more confused they get. Because usually, the more data they collect, the clearer the picture becomes. More information equals more understanding, equals more control. But with you, it's the opposite. The more they know, the less they understand. Every new piece of data just deepens the mystery, adds another layer to the question of who you are and why you won't play their game. And in those high-level meetings, when they're discussing resource allocation and threat assessment, your name comes up more often than you'd think. Not as an enemy, not as a target, but as a phenomenon they can't explain. Here's what they don't want you to know, what they definitely don't want others to figure out. Their entire empire, this vast network of control and influence, it only works if you believe in it. It only functions if you participate, if you accept the rules, if you agree that they have power over you. The moment you stop believing, the moment you withdraw your consent, the moment you recognize that their authority is nothing but a collective hallucination maintained by fear and habit, that's when their power over you evaporates like morning fog in sunlight. They need you to be afraid, need you to care what they think, need you to value what they control. They need you to want their money, seek their approval, fear their judgment, respect their authority. The entire mechanism of control is built on your participation in their reality, your acceptance of their framework, your belief that they matter. And the second you stop caring, the second you find meaning and purpose outside their system, the second you discover that you don't need what they're selling, you become ungovernable. Not dangerous, not rebellious, just ungovernable. And that's you, isn't it? That's why you're in the database, with warning flags and question marks. Because somewhere along the way, maybe you can't even pinpoint when you stopped playing their game. You stopped measuring your worth by their metrics. You stopped seeking validation from their institutions. You stopped fearing their disapproval. You stopped believing that their approval meant anything at all. And the moment that happened, you slipped out of their control without them even realizing it was happening. They're still trying to figure out how to get you back in, how to make you care again, how to reinstall the programs that make people manageable. They're testing different approaches, different angles, different psychological triggers. They'll try to make you angry, try to make you afraid, try to make you greedy, try to make you desperate. They'll dangle opportunities and present threats. They'll isolate you and then offer community. They'll criticize you and then offer praise. It's all the same game, different masks, same manipulation underneath. But here's the thing they're slowly, painfully realizing. You can see the game. You recognize the patterns. You know what they're doing even as they're doing it. And knowledge, real knowledge, not the kind they control and distribute, but the kind that comes from genuine awareness. That's the one thing their billions can't buy. Their surveillance can't capture. Their algorithms can't predict. You've developed a kind of immunity to their infection, an antibody to their mind virus. And now you're walking through their carefully constructed reality like a ghost they can't touch. And here's what's really keeping them up at night. What's causing emergency strategy sessions and billion-dollar investments in new control mechanisms. You're not alone. There are others. More every day. People who've unplugged from the matrix of their influence, who've stopped responding to their programming, who've developed that same immunity. And every time someone else wakes up, every time another person stops caring about their approval and their threats and their carefully orchestrated reality, the system gets a little weaker, a little less effective, a little more desperate. They can handle individuals, outliers, the occasional anomaly, but what they're starting to see, what the data is showing them despite their best efforts to ignore it, is that it's spreading. Consciousness, awareness, immunity to their manipulation, it's becoming contagious. People are watching others like you, people who don't flinch when threatened, who don't beg when pressured, who don't conform when pushed, and they're thinking, wait, you can do that. You can just not participate. You can just stop caring what they think. And that thought, that simple realization, it's more dangerous to their system than any revolution, any uprising, any organized resistance. Because revolutions they can handle, uprisings they can suppress, organized resistance they can infiltrate and destroy. But this quiet mass exodus from their reality, this growing number of people who just stop believing in their power, who stop participating in their game, who stop being controllable. There's no playbook for that. You can't fight an enemy who isn't fighting back. You can't suppress a rebellion that isn't rebelling. You can't defeat people who've simply chosen to exist outside your framework of control. And they're watching the numbers, the metrics, the trends. They're seeing engagement drop, influence wane, control slip. They're seeing more and more names added to the database, more and more profiles marked with question marks and warning flags, more and more people who don't fit the models, don't respond to the triggers, don't play by the rules. And they're trying everything. Increasing surveillance, developing new manipulation techniques, creating more sophisticated algorithms, spending more money, applying more pressure. But it's not working. Not on you. Not on the growing number of people like you. Because you've discovered something they hoped humanity would never figure out. That their power is borrowed. Their authority is imagined. Their control is an illusion maintained by collective agreement. And the moment you stop agreeing, the moment you withdraw your consent, the moment you recognize that you're already free and always have been, you slip through their fingers like sand, and there's nothing they can do about it except watch and wonder and worry about what comes next. Let's talk about what really triggered the alerts. What got your name flagged in their financial surveillance systems? It's not what you're doing, it's what you're not doing. You're not consuming the way you're supposed to. You're not responding to their advertisements. They're psychological triggers designed to create desire where there was none. You're not participating in their economy of planned obsolescence, artificial scarcity, manufactured need. You're not playing their game of debt and dependency, credit and control. They've built an entire economic system based on making people want things they don't need. Fear, scarcity that doesn't exist. Seek status through consumption. Find identity through brands. They've turned humans into consumers, reduced citizenship to purchasing power, made participation in their economy mandatory for participation in society. And it works, brilliantly, generating trillions in wealth for those at the top, creating a permanent class of people working to afford the lifestyle they've been programmed to desire. But then there's you, buying differently, prioritizing differently, valuing differently. You're not impressed by status symbols, not seduced by marketing, not manipulated by artificial urgency. You buy what you need, not what you're told to want. You save instead of spending, invest in yourself instead of their markets, find satisfaction in things that can't be monetized. And every transaction you don't make, every purchase you don't complete, every desire you don't develop, it's a data point in their system that doesn't make sense. They've got algorithms designed to predict consumer behavior with scary accuracy, models that can forecast what you'll buy before you know you want it. They can manipulate your emotions, trigger your insecurities, exploit your vulnerabilities, all to make you open your wallet and participate in their wealth extraction machine. But you're not responding to the programming. You're not buying the things that are supposed to make you happy, not seeking the experiences that are supposed to fulfill you, not chasing the status that's supposed to validate you. And they're starting to realize something that terrifies them. If too many people start living like you, if too many people stop participating in their economy of manipulation and manufactured desire, if too many people find satisfaction outside of consumption and meaning outside of their markets, the whole thing collapses. Their wealth, their power, their control, it all depends on keeping people on the hamster wheel, running faster and faster to afford a lifestyle that never quite satisfies, always chasing the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next level of status. But it's not just your economic behavior that's got them concerned. It's how you consume information, how you process narratives, how you resist their carefully crafted stories about how the world works. They control the media, own the platforms, shape the discourse, set the agenda. They decide what's news, what's important, what you should think about, what you should fear, what you should desire. They've turned information into a weapon, a tool of control, more powerful than any physical force. They feed you stories designed to divide, narratives crafted to distract, information selected to confuse. They want you arguing about things that don't matter while they do things you don't see. They want you afraid of threats they've manufactured while they commit crimes in plain sight. They want you so overwhelmed with information that you can't process any of it, so confused by contradictions that you give up trying to find truth. And it works spectacularly on most people, but not on you. Not anymore. Somewhere along the way, you developed immunity to their information warfare. You stopped accepting narratives at face value, stopped believing that the news is news, stopped trusting that the official story is the real story. You learned to read between the lines, spot the manipulation, recognize the patterns. You learned that what they don't tell you is more important than what they do, that what they want you to focus on is usually hiding what they don't want you to see. And now you consume information differently, critically, skeptically, with a filter they didn't install and can't penetrate. You question sources, check facts, think independently, draw your own conclusions. You don't accept their framing, don't adopt their language, don't participate in their manufactured debates. You've opted out of their information control grid, and that makes you dangerous. Not because you're spreading different information, but because you're demonstrating that their information monopoly can be broken. They're watching this, tracking it, trying to figure out how to bring you back into the fold, how to make you trust their sources again, believe their narratives again, participate in their discourse again. They're developing new techniques, more sophisticated propaganda, more subtle manipulation. They're trying to make their control invisible, their influence undetectable. But the problem is, once you've seen the man behind the curtain, once you've recognized the game being played, you can't unsee it, can't unknow it, can't go back to believing. Look who's still breathing. Yeah, you. The one they wrote off. The one they buried in whispers, in predictions, in silent bets behind your back. They had the eulogy written, didn't they? They had the flowers picked out, the condolences rehearsed, the fake sympathy posts drafted and ready to upload. They were just waiting for the confirmation, for the inevitable collapse, for the moment you'd finally prove them right. But here you are, still standing, still moving, still alive, when every single variable, every calculated probability, every rigged circumstance pointed to your destruction. And now they're staring at you like you're some kind of glitch in reality, some impossible equation that broke their entire understanding of how the world works. How the actual hell are you still here? Let me paint the picture they don't want you to remember. The one they tried to erase from your memory while it was happening. They isolated you, didn't they? Cut you off from every lifeline, every support system, every person who might have reminded you that you mattered. They turned your friends into strangers, your family into skeptics, your allies into silent observers who watched your downfall like it was entertainment. And when you reached out, when you were drowning and gasping for air, they handed you stones instead of ropes. They smiled while doing it too, wished you well, said they'd pray for you, told you everything happens for a reason, and then walked away laughing because they knew the reason was your destruction. This wasn't random chaos. This wasn't bad luck. This was orchestrated. This was designed. This was a full-scale operation to ensure you didn't make it out alive. And the beautiful twisted part? They made it look natural. They made it seem like you were just unlucky, just cursed. just not strong enough to handle what life threw at you. But you knew, didn't you? Even in your darkest moments, even when you questioned your own sanity, even when you thought maybe you deserved it, some part of you knew this was bigger than coincidence. This was sabotage, dressed up as circumstance, assassination disguised as misfortune, a hit job with no fingerprints. They poisoned your opportunities, leaked your secrets, rewrote your story while you were still living it, turned your name into a warning label, and watched as every door you approached slammed shut before you could even knock. The game was rigged from the start, and they made sure you knew it, made sure you felt it, made sure every breath you took reminded you that you were supposed to suffocate. But here's where their plan fell apart. Here's where their perfect murder mystery turned into their worst nightmare. They forgot to account for one tiny detail, one miscalculation that shattered their entire strategy. They forgot that some people don't die the way they're supposed to. They forgot that survival isn't always logical, that resurrection isn't always metaphorical, that some souls refuse to stop beating even when the body should have quit. You weren't supposed to adapt, but you did. You weren't supposed to find strength in the void, but you did. You weren't supposed to turn their poison into fuel, their attacks into armor, their hatred into a reason to prove every single one of them wrong. They built the perfect trap. And somehow, you didn't just escape. You evolved inside it. You became something they never planned for, something their calculations couldn't predict, something that shouldn't exist according to every law they thought governed reality. So now they're looking at you like you're a ghost, like you're a resurrection they can't explain, like you're living proof that their power isn't absolute. And that's what's killing them, isn't it? Not that you survived, but how you survived. Not that you're still here, but what you became while you were supposed to be dying. Because if you can make it through what they designed to annihilate you, if you can crawl out of a grave they dug with their own hands, if you can smile with dirt still under your nails and blood still fresh on your tongue, then what does that say about them? What does that say about their control, their influence, their carefully constructed illusion of power? It says they're not as untouchable as they thought. It says their system has cracks. It says there are forces in this universe they can't manipulate, can't corrupt, can't kill. And you beautiful, impossible anomaly, you're the living, breathing proof. Let's talk about what they threw at you, because we need to acknowledge the full scope of this nightmare. They didn't just attack you. They attacked your mind, your reputation, your future, your past, your sense of self, every foundation you built your identity on. They spread lies that sounded just believable enough to stick, rumors that followed you like a shadow, stories that rewrote your history before you could defend it. They took your words and twisted them, took your kindness and called it manipulation, took your silence and called it guilt, took your defense and called it desperation. Every move you made was used against you. Every breath was evidence of something sinister. Every attempt to clear your name just dug the hole deeper. They had you in a psychological chokehold, and the more you struggled, the tighter it got. And when character assassination wasn't enough, they went after your resources, your stability, your ability to function in this world. They blocked opportunities that had your name on them, closed doors that should have opened, made sure that everyone who could help you suddenly had a reason not to. They sabotaged your income, your connections, your reputation in rooms you never entered, conversations you never heard, decisions made about your life without your presence or permission. They created a reality where your failure was inevitable, where your collapse was just a matter of time, where everyone was just waiting for the final act of your tragedy. And the cruelest part? They made you think it was your fault. They made you believe you deserved it, that you brought it on yourself, that if you were just better, smarter, quieter, more obedient, maybe you'd be allowed to exist without constant assault. But the psychological warfare that was the real murder weapon, wasn't it? The gaslighting that made you question your own memories, your own experiences, your own reality. The isolation that convinced you that you were the problem, that everyone else saw something in you that you couldn't see, that maybe you were the villain in a story you thought you were the victim of. They played with your mind like it was a toy, twisted your thoughts until you couldn't trust yourself, made you second-guess every instinct, every decision, every moment of clarity. They wanted you paranoid, broken, convinced that you were losing your mind, that your perception was faulty, that your truth was a delusion. And for a while, it worked, didn't it? For a while, you couldn't tell what was real, what was manipulation, what was your intuition, and what was their programming. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, just when you thought you'd hit the bottom, they opened a trapdoor beneath that bottom and sent you falling further. They took the people you loved and turned them into weapons, used your own heart against you, made intimacy a battlefield and trust a death sentence. They knew where you were vulnerable, where you were soft, where one well-placed betrayal could do more damage than 1,000 public attacks. So they infiltrated your inner circle, planted doubt in the minds of people who claimed to love you, whispered poison until your closest allies started looking at you differently. And when you finally broke, when you finally crumbled under the weight of it all, they called it proof. Proof that you were unstable. Proof that you were dangerous. Proof that they were right all along. Your breakdown wasn't seen as a result of their torture. It was seen as evidence of your inherent brokenness. So let me ask you again, knowing all of this, understanding the full scope of what they put you through, the multi-layered systematic destruction of everything you were, how the hell are you still here? How did you survive something designed by people who studied you, who knew your weaknesses, who had resources and time and numbers on their side? How did you make it through nights where death seemed like relief, where giving up felt like the only logical choice, where every reason to keep fighting had been stripped away? I'll tell you how, because they're still trying to figure it out, and you deserve to hear the truth. You survived because somewhere deep in your core, beneath all the programming, beneath all the damage, beneath all the lies they tried to make you believe, there was something unbreakable. Not unharmed, not undamaged, but unbreakable. You survived because you stopped trying to make sense of their madness and started trusting your own instincts again. You survived because you realized that their version of reality was a prison, and you could either die in it or destroy it. You survived because you found something they didn't account for, something they couldn't measure or predict or control. Maybe it was rage, pure, concentrated fury at the injustice of it all. Maybe it was spite, the stubborn refusal to give them the satisfaction of your demise. Maybe it was love for yourself, for the future you hadn't met yet, for the possibility that there was something better waiting on the other side of this hell. Or maybe it was something else entirely, something you can't name, something primal and ancient and unstoppable. Whatever it was, it kept your heart beating when it should have stopped, kept your mind sharp when it should have shattered, kept your body moving when it should have collapsed. And now here's where the story gets interesting. Because survival was just phase 1. Phase 2 is what's happening right now. The part they absolutely did not prepare for. You didn't just survive, you evolved. You didn't just make it out alive. You came back different, stronger, colder, sharper, more aware, more dangerous, more free. You're not the person they tried to kill anymore. You're what emerged from that attempted murder. You're the phoenix that rose from ashes they thought were safely scattered. And that is what's breaking their minds right now. They can handle you being alive, barely, but they can't handle you being better. They can't handle you thriving where you should be traumatized, leading where you should be broken, smiling where you should be crying, winning where you should be begging for mercy. You see, they expected post-traumatic stress, and instead, you developed post-traumatic growth. They expected you to be haunted, and instead, you became the one doing the haunting. They expected you to carry shame, and instead, you wear your scars like badges of honor, proof of battles you didn't just survive but conquered. Every wound they inflicted became a lesson. Every betrayal became clarity. Every loss became freedom from something that was holding you back anyway. You didn't just heal. You transformed the pain into power, the trauma into wisdom, the near-death experience into a rebirth they can't reverse. You're not recovering, you're reinventing. And that's what terrifies them. Because if you can do that, if you can take their best shot and come back stronger, what does that make them? What does that make their power? What does that make their control? It makes it all an illusion. And you're the one who broke the spell. Let me tell you what they're whispering about you now. In the same rooms where they planned your destruction, in the same circles where they celebrated your struggles, in the same spaces where they wrote your eulogy. They're confused, they're unsettled, they're quietly terrified. They ask each other how you're doing it, what you know that they don't, what kind of deal you made, what kind of protection you have. Because in their minds, your survival has to be explained by external forces. They can't accept that you're just that resilient, that strong, that capable of outsmarting their system. So they create theories. They build narratives. They convince themselves that you must have help, must have secrets, must have some advantage they don't know about. And in a way, they're right. You do have an advantage, but it's not what they think. Your advantage is that you stopped playing their game. You stopped measuring your worth by their standards. Stopped seeking approval from people who wanted you dead. Stopped believing that their reality was the only reality. And the beautiful irony, the thing that almost killed you is the thing that made you untouchable. The isolation taught you self-reliance. The betrayal taught you discernment. The attacks taught you defense. The lies taught you truth. The darkness taught you to generate your own light. Every weapon they used against you became a tool in your arsenal. Every trap they set became a lesson in navigation. Every attempt to break you became proof of what you could endure and still keep moving forward. They inadvertently trained you to survive anything, to adapt to any environment, to thrive in conditions that would destroy weaker souls. They made you into the exact thing they feared most. A person who can't be controlled, can't be manipulated, can't be destroyed by the normal methods, because you've already been through worse and came out alive. So now they're stuck, trapped in a reality they created but can't control. They can't acknowledge that they tried to destroy you, because that would require admitting their own malice, their own weakness, their own evil. But they also can't ignore your existence, can't pretend you're not here, can't unsee what you've become. So they do what cowards always do when their plans fail. They revise history, they rewrite the narrative. They pretend they always supported you, always believed in you, always knew you'd make it. They show up now with fake smiles and forced congratulations, trying to attach themselves to your success, trying to claim some credit for your survival, trying to reposition themselves as allies instead of assassins. And you see right through it, don't you? Because when you've been to hell and back, you develop a sixth sense for detecting demons in disguise. But here's the question that's really haunting them, the one they can't ask out loud but keeps them up at night. If you survived this, what else can you survive? If you made it through their coordinated assault, their systematic destruction, their perfect plan, what can possibly stop you now? What do they have left to throw at you that's worse than what you've already endured? The answer is nothing, and they know it. You've been stress-tested in ways most people can't imagine. You've been pushed past breaking points that would annihilate others. You've been through fire that should have turned you to ash. And not only are you still here, you're thriving. That makes you unpredictable, uncontrollable, and most terrifying of all, unstoppable. You're no longer playing defense. You're no longer just trying to survive. You're building, creating, expanding, moving forward with a momentum that can't be slowed by people who already used their best ammunition and missed. And let's address the elephant in the room. The thing nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone's thinking. You're not supposed to forgive them, are you? You're not supposed to let it go. Move on. Take the high road. Be the bigger person. That's what they want. That's what they're hoping for. Because forgiveness from you would absolve them of guilt, would allow them to sleep at night, would let them pretend that what they did wasn't that bad. But you don't owe them peace. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them the comfort of your forgiveness. What you owe yourself is honesty, protection, boundaries, and the absolute refusal to let anyone who tried to bury you anywhere near your garden. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some doors aren't meant to be reopened. Some people aren't meant to be given second chances because they already showed you exactly who they are when they thought you wouldn't survive to remember it. Here's what they didn't understand when they were plotting your downfall, when they were placing their bets on your destruction, when they were writing that eulogy they were so confident they'd get to read. They didn't understand that trying to kill someone who refuses to die doesn't make them weaker. It makes them immortal. Not literally, not physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You've died 1,000 deaths in the process of staying alive. You've been reborn so many times, you've lost count. You've shed so many skins that the person they tried to destroy doesn't even exist anymore. You're not that naive anymore, not that trusting, not that vulnerable. You're the upgraded version, the final form, the boss level. And they're still playing the tutorial, wondering why their old tricks don't work anymore. And speaking of tricks, let's talk about the guilt they're trying to plant in you now, the subtle manipulation that comes after failed destruction. They want you to feel bad for surviving, for thriving, for moving on without them, for not needing them anymore. They want you to question whether you're being too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. They want you to remember the good times, the moments before the betrayal, the version of them that existed before they showed their true face. But you know what? Those good times were part of the setup. Those memories were the bait in the trap. That version of them was the mask they wore while sharpening the knife. You don't owe your energy to people who weaponized your trust. You don't owe your presence to people who celebrated your absence. You don't owe your future to people who tried to erase your present. So what now? What do you do with this impossible survival? This unexpected resurrection? This life you weren't supposed to have? You live it, unapologetically, loudly, freely, without asking permission from people who already voted for your death. You build the empire they said you'd never have. You achieve the success they said was impossible. You create the happiness they said you didn't deserve. You become living proof that their predictions were wrong. Their power was limited. Their control was an illusion. And their attempts to destroy you only made you indestructible. You don't need revenge, because your existence is the revenge. You don't need to prove anything, because your survival already proved everything. You don't need their validation, because you validated yourself by refusing to die when death would have been easier. And to those who are still watching, still wondering, still trying to figure out how you're still standing, here's your answer. You're still alive because you chose to be, because you fought when fighting seemed pointless, because you held on when letting go seemed logical, because you believed in a future they told you didn't exist. You're still alive because some part of you, even in the darkest moments, refused to give them the satisfaction. You're still alive because you're more stubborn than they are evil, more resilient than they are cruel, more powerful than they are destructive. You're still alive because you were never theirs to kill in the first place. You belong to yourself, to your purpose, to your journey, and nothing they did could change that fundamental truth.